Okay, here we are, we're live. Hello, dear Starshines. Welcome to today's lunchtime chats. My name is Christina, and I am an acceleration expert, and we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are relevant for us starseeds, new paradigm way showers, and visionaries. Pretty much those of us who have a strong drive to assist humanity, and we have abilities and perceptions that are beyond what the average human skill set that what people normally embrace. So we have very unique perspectives and ideas about things, and we are here to talk about those pieces. And I'm going to do the best to my ability to provide a liberated perspective to these to help us navigate these times. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll pause here for a second, wait for the crew to get on board. We have such a lovely community here. If you are interested in connecting with the people in this community or participating in the development of what we talk about in these chats, I encourage you to connect with us on social media. So we have a few different avenues. We are on Instagram as Multidimensional Accelerator. Not as much communication, direct communication happens on that platform for some reason, but we are there and our information's there. But the most conversations are in our two other platforms, which is Telegram and Facebook. So our Facebook group is Rise of the Multidimensional Human. And do know when you go to join that group, you do not just get automatically approved. You have to answer all three questions. So even if someone else invited you to the community, you still have to ask all three questions. And that is because we want to maintain the integrity of the community to be, set the behavior set at a different bar than the typical social media community. So that's Rise of the Multidimensional Human group on Facebook. And then on Telegram, we have another group, which I'm liking a lot. I post a lot of stuff on there, like things that I'm interested in the moment kind of stuff. And that is the Multidimensional Human group on Telegram. So if you want to participate in these conversations or with the lovely people that you see here that show up live for these chats, I encourage you to check out those platforms. It's important for us like minds that we are connecting with each other, because as many of you have observed, the divide between the collectives is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's important for us to stay connected with each other, whatever means necessary. So we have a community of people that can resonate with how we feel and what we see and things like this. Because the narratives, many people have observed, have become so extremely weaponized that if you say the slightest little thing that is close to the rhetoric that has put out there, you instantly get spun around and perhaps even demeaned or attacked by someone who is identifying with an opposing part of the narrative. So it's very difficult to speak about topics because they are so highly emotionally charged, and this is done on purpose. And actually, this is more of what I want to dive into today, is how to step out, unplug from those narratives with our surrounding collective, and build the resonance, collective resonance in the direction that we really feel is beneficial for ourselves and humanity. Okay. So right now, there's a lot of powers that be fighting over power right now. And, there's these weaponized narratives, pretty much all of them are put forward. The most recent one being, and you guys, if this doesn't show you how manipulated the masses are, this is, it's going to be over the top. There were two big things that happened this week that really got a lot of people in a tizzy. One was Supreme Court supposed leaked documents, right, about Roe v. Wade, and the other is the attack of Dave Chappelle for his potentially anti-LGBTQ plus comments. So, you guys, you see how well the controllers that create these narratives, how well they know us. They know they've been studying us for decades and decades and decades, and they have been studying how to manipulate us so much where it's pretty much 100% predictable what we're going to do. Now, and they have had total domination over the collective field for many hundreds of years. Okay. So now what's different is that we are waking up to another level of ourselves, and we are forced via, the vibrational reality ocean that we're in, we are forced to push through these control systems that are in our mental field. It's in our mental emotional connection with the collective, our mental emotional connection with each other. You see, it's a field that influences how we show up for another person, and how we show up for a situation, and how we show up for ourselves. Okay, this has been so for a long, long time. But now our universe, our solar ring is changing. Our galaxy and our solar ring is changing, and our universe is too, but that's a little bit too much for, I think, a lot of people to go to with their awareness. It's a little bit too far beyond the abstract into the abstract, But stick with galactic and solar ring. There's all these magnetic reversals going on that's changing our perceptions of things very quickly. And energetically, our biosuits cannot function with these mental emotional lockdowns going on within our system. So these programs and manipulations that have been very effective for so many centuries, especially the past, I'd say, few decades, can no longer have the control that it once had, because quite literally, biologically, it's not allowed. It's not happening. It's not anchoring in. Now, we know the people who are under the mind spell program, because it doesn't, when we want to connect with them and talk with them, it's just one massive inflamed program exchange, right? Where none of the words coming out of one's mouth is varied from the narrative or the rhetoric that has been fed. You see what I mean? It's like backed up with strong emotion and belief, and this emotional charge, and it's a very difficult thing to navigate. What a lot of people are choosing to do is just, be quiet and put your head down and do what you need, get what needs to be done. That's what we're doing. So that's how a lot are managing. Of course, there's a lot that are not doing that are much more vocal, and thank goodness for courageous souls that are willing to risk everything to speak the truth, because they are quite literally a wellspring of refreshing for us who maybe feel a bit isolated. All right, so hello, dear darling star shines. Hello from Hawaii, and dear sister Carol from Minnesota, Laurel from British Columbia, and dear sister Jackie from Ohio. Good to see you guys. So glad that you're here. There's been a lot of intensities happening, and I've been cautioning people over the many weeks that this is building into something that's going to be very, very strong. It's going to take all of our capacity to navigate. And I think maybe these times are showing this to be true. These solar flares and these magnetics and the Schumann resonance, all these baseline frequencies that have been consistent for so many thousands of years are no longer consistent. They are spiking. They are pushing very strongly, let's say, against our density, the parts of ourselves that can't flex and move with the frequency. Okay. So this is the personal, all this work that we've been doing throughout our lives. All of us have been on that spiritual path for decades and decades, transformational path, right? For decades and decades. This is where the tools they need to come in. And our ego driver doesn't pick what needs worked on. Okay. It's our spirit, it's our soul level is picking it, because what is smacking us in the face and making our lives miserable until we figure out how to unwind it, that's not something, it's very inconvenient what's being shown, let's say it like that. It's not something our ego driver would pick. Like, say you're going to go to a healer for a series of sessions, and absolutely 100% the transformation is going to happen, but your ego, and you use your ego driver and your intuition to pick out what's the most important thing for you to work with, right? And of course, what your ego driver puts forward is not the thing that your spirit would necessarily put forward, okay, to to take into a series of sessions like that. Okay, it's an inconvenient truth what's happening right now for so many people, light workers and mundane humanity. It is an inconvenient truth that's getting revealed. Now, first you have to get over the shock of it and the rebel of it and the anger of it and all that stuff. Then you can start coming at it and realizing that your very well-being, your very sanity depends on you dealing with this and getting unraveled from your system. Okay, it's scathingly painful. It's scathingly painful. That's all I can say. Until it's not. Okay, and that means, for a lot of people who have been on a spiritual path and that maybe have been on a plateau, as in there's a large section of their life that has not been changing at all, and like say they're in a miserable situation for a few decades and they're still in that miserable situation, you're going to stay there until it breaks. Something's going to break. This is the time frame that it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So the reason why that plateau is there is because there is a truth that you've been blind to. Whether it's your fault or not doesn't matter. It's just a truth that you've been blind to. That's what's happening. Okay. And you may want, and let me back up for a second and just tie this into this, to an experience that I had not that long ago that really made me throw my hands up in the air and not want to be informed on any level, shape about the whole CV, the COVID stuff, right? And that was when an interview by Stu Peters, who I enjoy, right? I've enjoyed some of his interviews. I think some of the information was really great, as well as many others like him. And he was interviewing that one chiropractor that was revealing his research, and what he shared was that the symptoms of COVID are parallel with the symptoms of a snake venom bite. And then he went on to pose that that the venom has been manufactured en masse and put into the water system. Now, up until that time, the information that doctor put out, I resonated with, and I was like, yeah, I really feel like that's a thing, right? But when this was put out, it kind of hit something in me. I was just like, wait a minute. Because some part of me was saying, if I accept this to be the truth, then that means other things that I've accepted to be the truth isn't true. Okay, that's where it brought me to. Now, then that's when I realized, wow, I got sucked into the collective drama more than I realized. It's like I got into the drama energetically or whatever more than I realized. So then, so it got me thinking, and I'm remembering now that all of these positions that are this or that, right or wrong, it's this truth or that truth. It can't be both true. As soon as I'm in a position like that, I've hooked into the program. I've hooked into it. I don't know how I hooked into it, but I've hooked into it. So in that moment when I had that thought about that interview, I was just like, oh my gosh, I totally was hooked into it more than I realized. So I woke up and then I pulled my energy back. I pulled it back. And I pulled it back to the point where I honestly, deep inside, when I echoed these different narratives through my system, I could care either way. I didn't care. That's how much I had to pull back to get to the deeper level of not caring. Okay. And you may wonder, how can you not care about this, that, or the other? It's like, it's possible to not care about the story without denying the reality of what's happening. Okay, that there are people suffering, that there are people dying, that there are there are things happening within that it's impacting our collective. There's a way to accept that truth without buying into the story of why that, the bigger story of what's behind it all. You see what I mean? So I had to retract my energy all the way to that. And there were strands all over the place. And there were little digital things swimming around inside too. So it was like a separation on that level. So what I'm saying here is that when we get invested into anything being the truth of these narratives, we are contributing into the information war. We're contributing into the polarity game. Okay. Now, we need to invent a way, and it was what it looks like is unique for all of us. We're all very different. We need to, us way showers, star seeds, visionaries, right, invent a way to be informed without becoming part and without contributing into the emotional charge. Because there's a lot of additional technological aspects added into the emotional charge. So once you have the emotional charge, it's difficult to unplug it because there's these fields, energetic fields generated through technology that magnify the charge. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of layers to unplug yourself from, including getting your body, your brain detox from the light. Okay, anyway, sorry, I went on a tangent. Let me go back. So I had that moment. I realized I was super invested and I was like, whoa, okay. And then I'm remembering, and as soon as, I pull all my energy back and I'm in that place of not caring and I look into the bigger picture, I realize, oh my gosh, these people that are the controllers that be, so to speak, are so masterful and clever. Okay, they are so, so good at what they do. And it's because they, it's not their envisioning doesn't happen over a generation. Their envisioning happens over centuries, and then they have centuries of lineages to feed into it, to carry on the agenda. They have ancestral memory through metaphysical means. There's ceremony, there's, you know what I mean? They are fully in those lineages, those controllers are fully engaged with their abilities to manifest and create over generations and for centuries, even millennia at a time. And an average human can't think that big. Average human does not think that big. Now we do star seeds and way showers. Those of us who are waking up to these other levels of who we are, we begin to realize we're thinking that big and that we're actually aligned with a collective of beings that think that big. But you know what I mean? Our human self's not thinking that big. So when you are backed up out of the scenario, backed up that to that level, and you look at what's going on, you can see the manipulation is very, very obvious. So this whole thing with Roe v. Wade, right? Manipulation game. And it's a brilliant manipulation game because there is a huge momentum being built up of conservatives and liberals alike, Democrat and Republican, across political boundaries, right? They're totally bridging the aisles there to stand against these vaccine mandates, okay? And the right for personal body sovereignty. They were, bonding. They were filing suits together, investing into things together. I mean, there was a lot of people that were looking around and realizing that the other people in the community that believe in long they were are very different than they are, okay? And that particular community is very easy to break up because there's some core values, especially when you get conservatives and liberals on the same page about something. What is the one thing that that can totally divide them? Some of the extreme Christian values, for example, that abortion should be outlawed. Now, this whole debacle would never even exist because all they have to do is create some legislation on a federal level, and the Supreme Court would not be in this position. So this is an ace card that has been held in the back pocket of the political strategists, those agenda people that think, remember, by centuries, right? That to pull it out when it's convenient, right? To pull it out when it's convenient. And right now it's convenient because this situation, this COVID situation, people are like, oh, it's been planned for a few years. I'm here, guys, this level of manipulation has been planned for centuries. Okay. So everybody knew this time was coming. Everybody knew, when I'm talking about everybody in the know, the controllers that be, everybody has known that these cycles of the solar ring and the Milky Way have been coming. Okay. And there's a plan that has been unrolling in order to set the stage for them to get their maximum impact. And, some of us are awake to it, some of us aren't, but you really, on a more down to earth way, we need to be awake to that, because then when we do, it's much easier to unplug from the big picture and see that this is a game that has been engineered from long ago. And then these pieces become obvious power plays rather than something that you can get juiced in. When I say juice, I'm talking about emotional juicing. Like, people get addicted to the chemical reaction in the brain to outrage. That was something that was discovered over COVID. People actually get addicted chemically, biochemically in the brain by the feeling of outrage. All of that is part of the game. All of that is part of the engineering. So the other things with the Chappelle thing, and I don't know if you guys realize, but there's a deep line of resentment within some African American communities about BLM getting tied into the LGBTQ plus community thing, right? And I'm just going to say LB community from now on, because those are a lot of things. And if you're offended, I'm sorry. A lot of, it doesn't flow off the tongue. Anyway, so there was a really deepening resentment about those two things getting coupled. And Chappelle, being the magician creator that he is, spoke about it. And now this community that was united about, to bring rights forward is now getting divided and turned against each other. Okay. That's because it's politically inconvenient for them to be unified. So we need to come up with a narrative to get them to go against each other. Oh, look, here we go. Perfect narrative. Now they're all mad at each other. Now everybody's distracted talking about that rather than standing up against the fact that people can't have a job and pay their bills because, they're not taking a vaccine that they don't believe in, right? So, or whatever reason, it doesn't matter. There's lots of reasons. Some people medically, it's risky for them to do that. Some people, it's, ethically, they think it's wrong. Other people realize, believe that there's a manipulation going on and it's poison. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of people of why they don't. So watch, when we step back and look at this level, you can see how every little group that started to build momentum and strength, there's all of a sudden a narrative whipped out to make divide. Just watch it. I mean, take them the next month and watch the news and how that's happening. And or don't watch the news at all, actually. That'll probably be better. Then you're not even, I'm just saying, if so you can learn how to disconnect from these pieces, learn how to disconnect from the emotional juicing. People are having meltdowns because their lives are completely getting destroyed, right? Understandably so. But we have to realize that there is a major consciousness shift going on. The frequency that you have been living is not in alignment with this next stage of evolution that you're going towards. Yes, it sucks that you have to leave where your household that you've been in for the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Yes, it sucks that your job is gone and your retirement, maybe you have it, maybe you don't, and you have to figure out how to make do with what you got, and relocation is a part of that. Yeah, all that sucks. But as Westerners, we have to realize this has been going on. This kind of transition has been going on for decades, guys. And a great example is if you look at some of the destination countries around the world where there are Airbnbs. Okay, I'm going to say Airbnb is a representation of the technocracy, right? So there are beautiful, beautiful locations where there have been families living in those locations for generations upon generations. They've been there for a long, long time. They've been vacation destinations, and they've been the local yokel, right, of that destination. They have been effectively driven out by the technocracy in the form of Airbnb. Tulum is a great example. There's no locals in Tulum anymore. No one can afford to live there. It's all Westerners. They've completely taken over the town. They've taken over every beautiful place, right? There's very few people that have been there generationally there anymore. There's places in Thailand the same way. There's places all over Mexico that are like that. So the shifting of power into the technocracy from the local people, it has been going on for a very long time. And now it's happening in the West as well. And a great example of that is Sedona. You guys know about Sedona. It's a beautiful, highly charged place, lots of vortexes, lots of ET activity. The veils are really thin, all this stuff. And there have been psychic mediums, starseeds that have kind of pilgrimed to this place for years and years and years and years, and some lucky ones were able to live there for a period of time. Notoriously expensive. Well, now the coming of the Airbnb and stuff like this, it's even more expensive. And people who have been local there for a long, long time are getting driven out. Okay, so this is all part of the shift of power. This is all part of the frequency shifting. Now, if you're going to hold on, and this is the dilemma that a lot of people are faced with, starseeds are faced with, and I have another dear starshine living in LA who's absolutely miserable, been there for years, just doesn't want to leave, even though life sucks there for her. You know what I mean? It's like there's a holding on to a frequency that's not conducive to where the inner spirit is going. The ego driver doesn't want to let go, but the spirit is pushing, 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 pushing. Believe me, the spirit is going to win. The ego driver will always reach that point where the pain of not changing becomes more than the change itself, and at that moment, that's where the ego driver will finally surrender and make the shift. Okay, so there's a massive migration of frequencies going on. There's a power shift going on. There is of course, the money shift as well. All of this is in flux right now throughout the whole world, this country, but throughout the whole world. And this is why I was saying that it's your spirit that's going to bring forward what needs to get addressed, not your ego driver. Your ego driver will bring forward what it's ready to bring forward, right? What it feels comfortable doing, or maybe you will challenge yourself, but still it's something that the ego driver will be willing to look at and address. When you have transformation happen on the level that's happening now because of all these frequency shifts, right? Galactically, on a solar ring level, on a Schumann resonance level, on a planetary level, all these shifts that are deeply woven frequencies within our bodies. It's not the ego driver, it's the spirit, and it's inconvenient truth, and it's gonna suck until it doesn't. And that's what we're facing right now over the next 2 months. The ego driver is not in control. The spirit is. So this is going to be uncomfortable, but we need to do it. We need to do it. Now, those of us who've been successful at taming the ego driver to be in alignment with the consciousness of our spirit, these times are more exciting than they're troublesome because we've already unplugged from that piece, right? And that's not where our challenge is. Our challenge is more about bridging our consciousness with the collective around us and doing work like that. Or maybe something else, maybe becoming an entrepreneurial visionary, right? That's another set of star seeds that are here to, what we're here to do, to bring in completely different ways of commerce, completely different, bring in technologies that are humanity's ready for, stuff like this. Free energy is here. It's not just the stuff the government has from the different reversed engineering from the ET tech, but there's a lot of star seeds that are scientifically brilliant and, well, in other ways, absolutely brilliant, that have already invented free energy and already have devices running. It's just getting the powers that be out of the way so these things can come forward and we can invest in them and grow it and turn it into, what do you call it? Leverage it till it gets to a scale where the rest of our country can benefit. All this stuff is here. The people that's going to change everything around, we're here. We're already here. It's just these structures that are in place have to fall away. It has to be away from our frequency in order for us to step into where we're going. These feel like structures. When I'm talking, you might even feel these structures going on in your head, like scaffolding or like a hardness and stuff like that. If that's starting to reveal to you, just wrap it up in love gauze or give it some flames and place that intent for it to move out of your system and let go of it and address that part of you that maybe wants to hold on to it. These are all part of it. I know I'm in a weird mood today. I'm just kind of, I don't know if tired's the word, but there's something about there's something about saying the same thing all the time. I get sick of it and I get bored with it. And it seems like we're coming in a place where I just need to reiterate the things that I've been saying. You know what I mean? It's like this, that's what the collective energy needs right now. And I know it's because we only hear what we're ready for, right? And there's lots of layers in what I'm talking about. So there's, certain things are going to jump out at certain times. But I'm just feeling like I'm ready for a shift. I'm ready for the next level. Yeah, that's what it's feeling like. I'm ready for that change. Anyway, so there's that kind of thing, and I want to address this feeling of I can't handle any more unraveling. There's messaging that has been put forward about, I don't know if I can deal with anymore. And that's what I'm calling the dark night of the soul, right? The dark night of the soul is that place where you don't feel like you can take it anymore and you just are like at wit's end. And then that's where the deeper level of surrender can happen. And it's only like that because, we've had to build a strong ego driver in order to survive in this world and make things, make life happen the way we needed to meet life in order to be an independent person within these structures, All right, let me pause here. And I'm going to say, dear Sister Joanne says, yes, to become informed and aware without being emotionally grabbed by any narrative. What a challenge and lesson, needing consistent vigilance. It does. There's also momentum happening here. So remember, there's momentum, as in we are in an ocean. That ocean is a collective conscious, and other people around us are being drawn and moved by these narratives. So there's already a moving momentum with it. So it's not like we're dipping our awareness into still water. We're dipping our awareness into a whitewater river of energy. You know what I mean? So it is a huge thing. All right, dear Sister Shanu says, how to raise our vibration. Right, so it's about lifestyle these days. It's not. So what happens is that in the beginning we learn these different techniques to bring happiness and joy, but then it's a matter of integrating that. So it's actually an integrated consciousness within our body, and then that's where it becomes a lifestyle, lifestyle. And that's the way so it's less about lifting frequency and more about living in the truth of your resonance. What is in the truth of your resonance? And this is a huge deal because a lot of people don't understand they are not who they think they are. When they look in the mirror, they think they are those thoughts. They think they are those emotions. They think they are all the story of why you have this trauma and why you love like that and why you enjoy things like this and why you have that scar. And you know what I mean? We have all these stories. But that's only the truth of who your ego driver is. That's not actually who you are. You are an infinite being in a biosuit first. Then that ego driver gets developed, right? So this raising vibration, I want to turn that language into what is the living in the truth of your resonance, honoring the truth of who you are inside beyond any ego driver validation. This is the big piece. When you are living the truth of who you are, you can't do things that are against your soul. You just can't. It's just not in you to do it. So these captures of these lures, these seductions, these all these pieces don't really have an impact, and you don't drain your energy trying to fight it because it's not anything close to interesting. If this makes sense how I'm saying it. We are all manipulated subliminally on so many levels. Energetically, there's tendrils reaching out to us to hook into. Energetically, it's everywhere within this ocean of consciousness. And if we take the bait, then we're instantly, grabbed and sucked in. And then, it takes work to get ourselves out of it. So what I'm saying is that people will raise their vibration and they'll do these certain techniques without recognizing the part of them that's not in resonance with these techniques or with these certain truths, right? And what do I mean by truths? I mean, we could take something as simple as affirmations. Affirmations are really, really helpful until they're not. And where is that threshold until they're not? They stop being helpful when we're not aware of the part of us that's not in congruency with those affirmations. So we make the affirmation to help train our brain, help train our synapses. That's only one component of who we are. There's energetic and emotional and subliminal momentum that is inside of us that perhaps is not in alignment with that affirmation. So now that affirmation can turn into a tool. You can turn that affirmation into a tool. So when you say it, you can start feeling, turning that eye inward, noticing how you feel when you say it. And notice what part of you doesn't believe it. What part of you says no to it, right? So when you turn your eye and want to connect with that aspect of, when you turn that affirmation process into a process of unraveling yourself, then it keeps its relevance. But as long as we're saying them and we're not aware of the part of us that's not in congruency with it and using that as a tool to get deeper, 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 it's gonna plateau. We're gonna, only go so far. And that's because it's really difficult for us to, in a loving, compassionate, healing way, face the part of us that doesn't want to be happy. Face the part of us that actually relishes in our suffering, or faces the part of us that feels betrayed by us, right? Or that inner child that feels that we kicked it to the curb and doesn't want to cooperate anymore with what we want. You see what I mean? It's like there's all these pieces inside. They all have to get congruent. Once all these layers of us are congruent, when we say something, it's the truth, and it's the truth 100% in our resonance, and it's instantly so. It's instantly so. Okay? I mean, there's times when I can say something, and in the moment of saying it, I can feel how it's not the truth. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that's not the truth. It's like, oh, wow, I really, in my head, I really believed it. But when I'm saying it, it feels totally different, right? So this is what I'm talking about. It's living in a place that's in the truth of your resonance. That is how the frequency gets shifted and raised on a collective level. All right, darling. Thank you for that. Thank you for answering or asking that question. All right. Dear Soul Schooling says, wow, inconvenient truths, too shallow to swallow and process. How can the collective stop enabling social media addictions and finally find new ways or bring back old ways of staying in touch with each other? Yeah, well, that's it right there. There's been people who've gone on letter writing campaigns, and started writing letters to friends and family to get connection in a different way. We have to invent those ways, dear darling. We have to invent those ways. So it's worth us all here and now to ask those questions. How can we usurp this need for social media? How can we make connection? There's a lot of communities that are getting together. We have to find them, though. We need to be willing to go into that fool's adventure and not know where we're going. When I say fool's adventure, I mean like we pack up and we follow the wind where it takes us and see where it takes us. You know what I mean? We quite literally don't know where we're going, but we know we're going somewhere. Like that. For some of us, that's the level of leap we need to be taking. Dear Soul Schooling also says, sending you love. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, darling. Thank you for being here. I missed you, actually. I think you've been busy lately. All right, dear sister Ella. Oh, darling. Mwah, good to see you, sweetie. So glad to hear from you. So much, yes. Been through so much lately. Dark, alone, very different to who I usually am. Today I've been cleaning my space, writings and old papers. Feel like something is just about to come. Yes, yes. So that real strong tension happens right before the breakthrough. And what's happening is that the building up of tension happens, we have our breakthrough, and then we only have maybe a day or two, and then the next layer of tension comes, and we have the breakthrough, and then the next layer, and then the next layer, and it's happening quickly. and it's intense until, we figure out our momentum with it. The momentum is courageous. We really need to be courageous with ourselves and honest with ourselves and let that truth be there, no matter how uncomfortable and inconvenient it might be. You know what I mean? So for us, that's the catalyst. That's how you ride the wave. Keep facing those truths as they reveal. The spirit brings them to you. Remember, not the ego driver. The spirit does. So when you're doing, and this is why dream work is such a great catalyst, because the ego driver is only so much influential in what your spirit brings to you. You know what I mean? If you want to dive deep into something and you take it into dream time, your dream time will bring you that inconvenient truth. And usually it'll be something emotionally disturbing going on. You know what I mean? And then you'll just keep working it and working it. And of course, there's lots of ways to work with your dreams, to turn them into a way to unravel blind spots and healing, which is something that we do all the time. But so yeah, these are big times coming up. I'm thinking the next couple months, looking at this and nourishing yourself with the perspective of this being a marathon is really going to help you. Is really, really going to help you. We're going to come to those dark places, have our breakthrough, and then be okay for a minute or two, and then have another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. Okay. That's what I'm foreseeing going on this summer. So look out for those major manipulations. Look out for those narratives that are calling for clashes between social groups, between groups of people. I mean, look out for all those protest organizers and stuff like that. This is where they set the stage for the trouble to start, and then they send in troublemakers, and the trouble happens, and some group gets massively demonized. This is how all the anti-mandate protests had been undermined. There have been violent people purposely thrown in there to wreak havoc, so those people can be dismissed. So we have strength in numbers. We don't have to stand out and protest. We can vote with our dollars. We can vote with what we pay attention to, what we're willing to tune into. We can vote with what we're willing to say yes with. A community can drive out a single business if they wanted to. It happened here not that long ago in this town. The community turned against a business that's been around for decades and totally closed it down. So we can do that. We don't do that by getting together and protesting and carrying signs. That's the old paradigm way. That worked in the old paradigm way. Those examples were given to us, right? And we worked them to as far as they can go. And now we need to dream up another way of doing it, right? And there are people doing it. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right, then we have you are being forward, the next level of keeping it real with ourselves and each other. Thank you, darling. Yeah. All right, thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Shanu. Okay. So, standing in solidarity is important. Connecting with others. This summer, really go out of your way to find human, like real life groups of people. Usurp the internet, or leverage the internet where it's working to your advantage instead of you working to its advantage. There are people that I know that are getting together in the forest and in nature settings to celebrate and to connect with Mother Nature and connect with other beings that are in these other realms that are integrating with us. There are lots of levels of consciousness that are in these manifestation realms to this 3D experience that are revealing themselves to humanity, so we can rebuild relationship with them. Okay. And so we can bring their reality into our reality together again. There's many people who are getting activated and guided and mentored even at doing this. So for me, I feel like that's where I want to spend my bandwidth, right? That nurturing those sorts of things, nurturing those kinds of collectives. So we have people coming together to connect with elemental beings, with Sasquatch, with fairy realms. There's a fairy congress that happens every year. I believe it may have just happened, or it usually happens in the spring sometime. There are these events where people are getting together with each other and seeing eye to eye and recognizing their similarities more than their differences, and they're choosing their similarities. And it's the elemental kingdoms that bring us together. It's music that brings us together. It's food that brings us sort of thing together, you know. So there are deep ways to come together and unite in our resonance. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Sorry if I'm in a mood. It's just, you know, that's just the way it is. Okay. So I have some few questions to address, and if you guys have things that you want to talk about, you know, bring them forward. Let me know. So let's usurp this game. You know, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the manifesting teachings that are out there, you know, they're not effective for a lot of people because it's framed up in a truncated kind of way. We manifest things by dreaming them into being. You first have to have the thought before it can become something. Okay, so by us having an idea, us crowdsourcing through our dream time to bring forward an idea, this is how we start to change things, right? Rather than going with the old washed up program that has been, you know, washed and repeated over the decades, centuries, millennia, we have a brand new thought and a brand new idea. See you later, dear sister. Thank you for being here. So I have to stress, dream time is where it's at, guys. And you can use your dream time to analyze your subconscious and understand yourself better, sure. But it's way more potent to utilize your dream time to actually dream forward frequencies of your spirit into this reality so you can quite literally manifest a different reality, right? Because remember, there's nesting dolls of realities that create this one. Some of those nesting dolls are pure frequency. Some of those nesting dolls are geometry, light encodements. Some of those nesting dolls are soul's journey structures like Akashic Records, stuff like this. We have full access to those levels of ourselves these days. And it's not just to heal, but it's actually for us to bring forward what it is we truly want in our lives. So you can bring the frequency, you can bring the encodements, you can bring more soul quantum of self into this reality and integrate with it and therefore change it. We doing this together, we crowdsource this sort of thing together, we are quite literally going to reclaim what gets created in our reality. We're not going to have to deal with the powers that be manipulating everything on the level, you know, right now it's so manipulated. Humans are tricked in thinking that they only have that or the 3D arena to manifest things. And that is not the truth. We have all these multidimensional levels of access available to us to manifest things. It's not just the controllers anymore that are aware of it. We are aware of it too. And we need to get together and keep doing this and dream this forward. Now, this is reminding me of a story here. When I was working with Alberto and the Four Winds and the Quechua, healing was a major goal of mine. Healing was a major point. But what I realized is that wasn't their point. That was my point. Their point was to awaken a homo luminous being, to awaken a being that knows how to dream this world into being and is willing to take that responsibility and do it, right? Create a collective of humans awake to themselves so they will retake charge of their dream time and actively participate in dreaming this world forward. We have to heal ourselves before we're able to do that because there's a lot of wounding that, close those doors within us. Those unwindings are happening faster and faster and faster and more accelerated than ever before. So we have that access. So the more we do this, the more we are transcending those lame tools that they give us in the 3D world, and we're stepping into our wizardry, we're stepping into our mastery, into bringing forward what we want. Now, you'll know there's a big problem when someone asks you what you want and you have no idea. Right? When someone asks you what you want and you're like, I have no idea. I don't really want anything. I'm very simple. Okay? That's because the frame up is completely backwards in your psychology. Your programming has you turned completely backwards from yourself. Okay? Because what does the soul want to do? The soul is here. We are all here to participate in this awakening. Okay? It's a drive that is within us that we can't say no to. Star seeds, anyway. We can't say no to it. It's a drive to help humanity. And it's not that we're here to save the world. We're here to bring forward the very gifts that are our soul level gifts, to bring them forward in a way that serves life. That serves life. That's the base structure for your purpose. To connect with your gifts, grow your gifts, cultivate your gifts on a spiritual, those spiritual gifts, cultivate them so you can bring them to the world and serve humanity in a way that, that serves life. So when someone asks you what you want and you're saying, I don't know, your mind thoughts are completely blind to the desire of the soul. Until it's not, of course, right? We wake up to that. So there's a lot of, games and tricks that are played in the lightworker world to get people off their path. I know plenty of people who live a path of service that also walk a path of suffering, right? Because, the scarcity thing or whatever. And that's just because there are things that the blind spots are happening and they're not able to see. And it's not being reflected accurately back to them. So this is why, and again, you want a community that resonates with you, because when you're with other people who are truthful and transparent, right? The truth is obvious when you guys are together. And that's why when I'm saying something in mid-sentence, I can tell it's not the truth. It's because I'm surrounded by people that are like that, because that's a high value priority for me. I want the truth reflected back to me. I don't want the distortions reflected back to me. As an empath, that was so freaking confusing. So confusing, because what people were feeling and the feeling I was getting from them was not congruent with their words. I grew up with that, and that made me so backwards and confused for the beginning part of my life, because I always thought I was wrong. I always just default conclusion I was wrong. Whatever I was thinking, I was probably wrong. It was so sad. And then I wake up, and then I realize, oh my gosh, it's not that I'm wrong. It's that people aren't truthful. People aren't truthful for what they're thinking or how they're feeling. And, even, people who I was close to and loved. So we're waking up out of this manipulation. It's very, very uncomfortable. Self-care is everything. You may have to step up your self-care, if you really want to dive into the game, get your dream time, get connection with your dream time going. Okay. And, dream time is a way to cultivate those synchronicities. This is why I call it dreaming the world into being, because as you download frequencies within your dream time and you're working on those levels, synchronicity becomes a way of life for you. Okay. Synchronicity is where it's at. This is where you recognize your true manifestation power. And people use synchronicity as a reason why they are disempowered. And that's only because they only are wanting to acknowledge the synchronicity that shows them their yes. But believe me, your synchronicity is also showing you your no, where there's a part of you not on board with what you want. Okay. Synchronicity will show you that. And when you realize that and you start using that to your advantage, right? Just like what I was saying with those affirmations, as long as you're using that to your advantage, you're going to get out of that hole. You're going to get out of that divide inside of yourself. Everything that we're taught to be at war with ourselves. This is all an engineered, conditioned, we're all conditioned according to a very well-developed, engineered way of training people, mental, emotional fields, stuff like this. So, we can step out of that. We just need to understand that it's there and not buy into it. And then we can turn our eye inward and feed what is actually the truth inside of our being. Okay. All righty, my darlings. I guess I don't really know where to go from there. Does anybody feel like they're not able to work with their synchronicities? Or do you guys feel like, it's not realistic to work with your synchronicities or anything like this? I'd be curious to hear. Because I'm feeling like, it's so simple. Why don't we get it? But maybe, for some of you guys, it's not that simple. I know when I talk about it with my partner, he doesn't think it's that simple. And it astonishes him that, for me, it works every time and it's always that simple. I think he gets a little frustrated because he wants it to be that way for him. Okay. All right, darlings. Well, I'm reaching the end of my juice today. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. All right. Thank you, Soul Schooling. She says, I love and value my synchronicities. Yes. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So use those synchronicities for those of you that maybe maybe don't have good relationship to it. Like, sometimes those synchronicities we use to convince ourselves that we're not worthy or something, this is why it works against me. This is why God hates me. This is why, things always suck, and I'm going to challenge you to flip the script on that. Don't let those synchronicities feed your disempowerment. Instead, let that synchronicity get you in touch with some part of you that's not cooperating with what you're saying you want and the direction you want to go. Use that synchronicity to turn the eye inward and dig deeper and realize that you're working against yourself in some way. And that is a tool, a doorway into touching something that is unknown inside of you. Okay, dear sister Joanne says, my synchronicities are telling me I am not to be offering classes and I have no idea what to do. Okay, thank you, Joanne. All right. Her synchronicities are not in alignment with her doing classes. All right, so Joanne, this is a great example, and I love you, darling, and I highly respect everything that you do because you are a courageous starshine, and you have been for a long time. So I'm going to say slow down in the process and in looking at the synchronicity process because so first she says, my synchronicities are telling me. So I am not to offer classes. Okay, so let's slow that down. So does that mean that the synchronicities are presenting that are working against you getting classes going? So first answer me that question. Are those synchronicities happening in such a way where you don't want to do it, where you don't want to do the class, or happening in such a way where like you can't get it off the ground, even though you want to? Let me know that. Because the saying my synchronicities are telling me I am not to offer class is a conclusion. There's first an experience that happened before that conclusion. That's where my senses are going, right, with that. Okay. Yes. Gotcha. Well, this is why we have to slow down. It is simple, but the thing is that our mind goes really fast. We make a bunch of assumptions to get to a conclusion versus slowing down with each little piece and really first, before you have any kind of mental thought or conclusion about something, first feel the feeling of what that synchronicity is bringing you to. Okay, so say you work really hard at this thing, you do it, and it does, right? I'm just going to summarize, right? And it does. Now, the conclusion is I'm not meant to do this. But before the conclusion is a feeling. The feeling is it dudded. There's worthiness feelings that come up with that. There's failure feelings that come up with that, right? There's feelings. So you can use whatever feeling you get in touch with. Okay, doors closed. Okay, so how does it feel to have the doors closed? Feel what inside happens when you feel the doors have been closed, right? And I'll use an example. I'll do it with you. I'll use an example. There's a thing over here I got disinvited from because I wasn't vaccinated, right? So I just got like, oh, sorry, you can't come. Right? So I do laugh at it, but I am miffed because it's like, right? You call yeah, being cut off. Yeah, so you feel cut off. How does feel cut off feel? I'm cut off. See, these are thoughts about the feeling. What is the actual feeling? Yeah, that's a feeling. Oh, right? Like, oh, that's a feeling. Then we have, yeah, a little bit of humility. There's a feeling a bit humiliated, right? And I'm tracking into my own thing. I'm feeling a bit humiliated, like, oh, and being betrayed, like feeling left out. That left out feeling, like not being picked for the team, kind of vibe. Okay, and as I'm doing that, things are stirring in my belly, and I'm actually feeling energies stir, stir, stir. And I'm still feeling until I can get to a place where I hear a voice. Sadness. Okay, so good, sadness, no purpose. Yeah, almost. Oh, yeah, that no purpose, almost like a helpless kind of feeling in there. Yeah, feel that. And you keep getting into the feeling until you can come to the voice, or come to this place where you can feel it is the source of the feeling. You know what I mean? It is the part of you that is having that feeling. And once you can get into that part of you that's having that feeling, you can smile at that part of you. Say, hello, I see you. And once you do that, pause. Pause with that I see you and see what response happens. What happens? What does the body do? Is there movement that starts going on? Does an eye come forward? You know what I mean? Just watch. I see you with that smile inside. And then you'll have that emotion. The emotion will be there. Not all the time, but a lot of times it'll be a part of our inner child that feels rejected. Why it's rejected maybe doesn't matter, but the fact is, where will I go? Tell me what I'm supposed to do. Ah, where do I go? Tell me what I'm supposed to. Okay, so there's a part that wants to be told. Okay. So keep going, keep getting in touch with what am I supposed to do? Because that feeling there's more feeling there, goes up through the head into the throat. And that feeling is like, since I'm not allowed to do what I want to do, tell me what I can do so I can do something, right? There's that kind of confusion happening. So keep going into it. And when you can get to the actual part of you that's having that feeling, that is where you can bring the healing. Whatever you do, don't try to change that part of you. Instead, what you do everything you can to smile into, to have compassion, to love that part of you. Let that part of you that you appreciate that it exists. You really appreciate discovering her. You love her. You realize that she has these feelings and you don't want her to have those feelings. Those are awful, terrible feelings. They don't feel good. So just be with that empathically with yourself, and then that part of you is going to start moving and shifting and changing. And as you smile, as the sun smiles into that part of you, you are transforming that energy. You are transforming the heaviness, the hucha, the stuck emotional stagnicity. You are transforming it with your smile, smiling like the sun, because the sun transforms. The sun's light transforms. Okay, thank you thank you so much, darling, for giving me an opportunity to go through that process. Okay, so show me somewhere I can fit and can offer something of value. Okay, so then it is, I love you, I value you, you are here with me. Okay, remember, you're coming in like the sunshine, smiling to that part of yourself. You are bringing that to you. And you just hold space until you can get to that place inside where you can get to the yes inside of yourself that wants love, where that pain shifts and change, the blame shifts and change, the lostness shifts and change until you can feel the yes for wanting love. And then that's where the transformation happens. Okay. All right, darling, I'm gonna let you go now. Thank you for that so much. I love you guys. We'll see what next week brings. Remember, please keep yourself unplugged, keep yourself in the view of the bigger picture, so your energy doesn't get drained out, and you can use your life force and your focus and your strength to dream your world into being, to going after what it is you truly want in your world, in your life, in a congruent way. All right, darlings, love you lots. Mwah. Until next time.